Hi everyone, welcome to week 4 PF 121 meet session. A few things that I wanted to cover with you this week because I know that in week 4, one of the things that some students have a little bit of difficulty with is the APA assignment. You will be using APA citation throughout your entire academic program at Franklin University. So it really is imperative that you become familiar with it and that you master it. Well, the good news is all of the information that you need is really available to you online on the library's page. You don't have to memorize any of this stuff. You really just need to know where to go to find the information. So right now, what I'm showing you is the library's page. And you'll notice that here in this box, it says Popular Research Guides. The number 1 is APA style. If you go ahead and click on that, it's going to open up a new window with excellent examples of how you go about citing your sources, how you go about setting up your documents. So for example, you'll notice here it says sample documents. And if I go there, I have a sample formatted paper and a sample reference list. You can use these as a template. There's really no reason to reinvent the wheel. If I click on this formatted paper, what will happen is it's going to open up a Microsoft Word document, and essentially everything is going to be formatted for me. On the top, this is what we refer to as a running head. So up in the header, if you were to right click and click on Edit Header, you can change the name of the document. Down here is where we have the assignment name, your name, obviously just in time is this sample paper student's name, but here's where you would actually put your own name, the name of the course, the name of your professor, and then the date the assignment is due. And then if you scroll down, you'll see that this is the body of the paper, and everything is set for you in terms of 1-inch margins, everything is double spaced, and it's using a font that is acceptable. Then you'll notice that References has a separate page. Your references always go on a separate page. So you'll want to make sure that you put a page break before the references. And you'll also want to remember to use hanging indent for your list of references. Some of you may be wondering, what do I mean by hanging indent? Well, here on the Home tab, you'll notice that in the Paragraphs section, there's a little arrow. Click on that, and it gives you a drop-down menu. And under Special, switch that from None to Hanging, and that will give you your hanging indent for your references page. So there's the sample document. Again, here's a sample reference list. This shows you, just exactly what your reference page should look like. And so here's a perfect example. First, we have the author, then we have the year, then we have the title. If you retrieve this from an online source, you need to give us the URL. If you've retrieved it from the library's database, rather than the URL, you are simply going to tell your audience what database you used. So in this case, if this had been from, let's say, for example, Business Source Complete, it would say retrieve November 3rd, 2014 from Business, and whoops, enable editing, from Business. Let me try this again. Business Source Complete database. And then I would not have a URL. Reason being, you're a student at Franklin, and as a student at Franklin, you have access to the Franklin University Library database. If someone who is not a student at Franklin University wanted to look up your source, that link is not going to work for them because they don't have a login account with Franklin. So in other words, the URL just simply wouldn't work. So this way, we tell them instead, okay, this is the database that I used so that the person can either A, pay to search on that database. Or B, let's say, for example, maybe they attend another college or university and they have access there. They could still log in through their university library and go to the same database and find the article. So with that said, you'll notice here, Center for Disease Control and Prevention. That's not actually an individual author. However, it is the name of an entity. So if you don't actually have an author's name, oftentimes the organization is going to end up being the author that you use. Now, let's say, for example, you find a source that doesn't have an author's name, and it also does not have an organization's name. Well, in that case, what you would do is use the title of the specific page in the website. So again, all of this information is available to you online. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just come to this page to find the information that you need. The other thing that I really like is the fact that, again, here's the main university library page. When I click on this APA style, on the very front page, here is the Franklin Style Manual. The actual APA text is, hundreds of pages. It's probably about 3 inches thick. This is the Franklin Style Manual, which means we've got this narrowed down to just about 80 some pages. What I really like about the fact that we have this electronic source is, since it is electronic, I can push down on my control button and then the F for find, and it opens up this search box. So for example, if I want to know, how do I go about citing a magazine article? I type in magazine article, or let's just type magazine. And you'll notice that it says 1 of 8. So there are 8 different places within this electronic source where I can read about how I can go about referencing a magazine. So let's look through. Here's an example of a magazine article with 2 authors, and it has an issue number. Notice we have the last name, first initial. You never include the first name in APA citation, just the first initial. We've got the year, the month, the day, the title of the article, and then here we have the periodical name in italics. What do I mean when I say periodical? Anything that's published periodically is considered a periodical. So that would go, that would be in terms of a magazine, a newspaper, a journal, anything that's published periodically. Notice here that the issue is in italic. You are never going to see the word issue or the word volume in APA citation. Instead, what you'll see is that they'll be in italic or in parentheses. And then let's go to another example. So here we have periodical articles and databases on periodical sites. Again, notice that we've got the volume in italic, the issue is in parentheses. Again, you're not going to see the word volume, but what this would be is, for example, if this were volume 17, then the number 17 is going to be in italic. And then the issue itself, let's say it's issue 4, the number 4 is going to be inside parentheses. And here's a better example of an actual magazine article. So the author's name is Harley, first initial B. This was published in December of 1995. The title of the article was Spanning the Globe. Notice only the first word is capitalized. Only the first word of the title is going to be capitalized unless it includes a proper noun. Then we've got Database Magazine. It's in italic. The 18 in italic means that this is volume 18. 6 in parentheses means this is issue 6. And then they've noted here that it was retrieved from Health Source, Nursing Academic Edition database. So again, everything that you could possibly need in terms of, how do I How do I cite something that's from an electronic source? How do I go about citing websites? Um, how do I go about citing an image? All of that information is right here at your fingertips. So just know that that's there for you. And if you have additional questions, you can certainly always chat with a librarian. Anytime that the library is open, you will see this little chat box and you can have somebody assist you virtually. The other thing that I wanted to cover real quickly is the team project. And I know that some of you are a little bit worried about, oh gosh, what should my PowerPoint look like? Well, I have a couple of examples here from classes that I have taught in the past. Here's an example of a team that did their project on the movie Ants. This was their opening slide. I've removed all of the names of the students, but you can see that they've got the class, my name, and then their team name. The first slide they had was their summary slide. This can just be a brief summary. This is not a film class, so I do not want a synopsis of your movie, just, very briefly, summary. Then they chose to have somebody report on the performing stage. And then they had a goals-oriented slide, interaction-oriented slide. You'll notice they didn't have a final slide. My recommendation to you would be to have some kind of a slide at the end that, if nothing else, says questions or the end, something that, some kind of closure to your presentation. So this is one example. Another example, here is one that was done on the movie Bug's Life. So here's the opening slide. And then they introduced each one of the team members who, the way they actually decided to do their PowerPoint was by each individual person taking a major role from the movie. So somebody chose Flick, somebody else chose Dot, and that's the way they divvied everything up. And so here's Flick, and according to this person, Flick's goal-oriented role was initiator, and Flick's interaction-oriented role was harmonizer. We have the same for Dot, Ada, Hopper, and Molt. If you want to divvy up your slides this way, that's perfectly fine. If you want to use the method that the other team chose, that's perfectly fine as well. I'm flexible. The whole idea of this project is demonstrate that you have an understanding of Tuckman's model, that you have an understanding of his theory of group development, and you have an understanding of the different roles that people play while on teams. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell for the team presentation. If you want to present live, you certainly can. If you would prefer to just record your voices and then share that with me via OneDrive, that's fine as well. I think the advantage of that is the fact that when you present live, people have a tendency to have a lot of anxiety. I think when you can do this ahead of time, you kind of bypass that. But if you prefer to present live during week 6, that's perfectly acceptable as well. I just need for your team to let me know so that we can work out a time where we can all log in together. So if you have any other questions or concerns, certainly feel free to reach out to me. And hopefully this has helped to clarify a little bit. For your assignment, your APA assignment this week, keep in mind that on this paper, essentially what you're going to do is click on, let me find the link here. Okay, so here's the link that takes you to that manual that I talked about before. Here's the video. Here's a link to Sleep and Student Performance at School article. Number 6, download to your computer and read the paper that you'll use. So I'm going to click right here. It's going to open up this Word document for me. Essentially what we have here is a paper that's already formatted according to APA guidelines, and what you are charged with is adding something to this paper and citing your source. So in other words, we have an article, it just doesn't have any kind of scholarly reference in it. So you're asked to add something. It's a paper about motivation. So when you go to the library's database, you will, for example, let's say I'm going to find it. I'm going to databases, and I'm going to choose database by name because I know that I want to use Business Source Complete. So I click on Business Source Complete and log in with my credentials. And I am going to type in the word motivation. I'm going to limit my result to full text because I want to make sure that it only brings up things that I actually have access to. And then I'm going to click on search. And wow, I don't know if these are articles that I really have in mind. So perhaps instead of just motivation, maybe I should type in student. Okay, so now that has narrowed my search down a little bit. And I can continue to narrow down my search. But once I find the article that I want to use, I simply click on it. And you'll notice that over here, it gives me the option to print. Now, I'm not actually going to print, but let me go ahead and click on print. See where it asks citation format? I can choose APA and hit print. And then notice that, I'm not actually going to go ahead and actually print, but notice here it's formatted my reference for me. I could simply copy and paste this information into my document. Now, keep in mind, it's not perfect. You do need to tweak things a little bit. So you'll notice, see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Doesn't look like I have the ability to do that. This title, each word in the title has a capital letter. And as I mentioned before, only the first word in the title should be capitalized. So that I would need to tweak a little bit. I would need to go through and delete the capital P, make that a lowercase p. But beyond that, everything else is formatted perfectly. So again, no need to reinvent the wheel. Use these shortcuts when they're available to you. Hopefully this has helped clarify APA a little bit. And if you do have other questions, certainly don't hesitate to reach out to me or ask for help from a librarian. The librarians at Franklin University are extremely helpful, and they do not mind helping students at all. So again, hope this was helpful, and let me know if you have additional questions. Thanks so much.